Hello, and welcome to RV Advisors All Things RV Podcast. I am your host, Cathy Conrad. I have been enjoying the RV lifestyle for over 5 years, and I love helping new RVers realize their RV dreams. This podcast is about RV education, resources, adventures, and the amazing people who love RVing. It is also about discovering the freedom RVers experience, the connection with nature we are all so grateful for, and how RVing enriches our lives. On this podcast, you can expect us to talk about all things RV, including the good stuff, the challenging stuff, and everything in between. So join us weekly and enjoy the lineup of guests we have in store for you. Welcome back to the podcast. And if you're new, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And today I have a long-awaited guest that I've been wanting to have onto the podcast for a bit. His name is Clark Harrell, and he's a licensed insurance agent with Charlotte Insurance in North Carolina. And although Clark is licensed to sell many insurance products, he specializes in RV insurance. Clark's been my agent for several years and has helped me to make the right choices for RV coverage. We started out, as weekenders, and when we went full-time, Clark and I met to revamp our coverage to cover us as full-timers. Clark, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Cathy, for the nice introduction. Hello, folks. How are you? Like Cathy said, my name is Clark Harrell. I work for Charlotte Insurance, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Luckily, we're able to write policies all over the United States. We're in about 40 states now, so that's a great thing. Just a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in North Carolina. It's been a 20-year career in the United States Army. I taught high school, junior ROTC for about 6 or 7 years. And then, believe it or not, I actually fell into insurance. It was a total accident. But I've kind of fallen in love with, dealing with people, helping people. And this RV adventure has been really, really fun. So I'm excited to help anybody that I can. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on. And thank you for your service to our country. So can you share with us how insuring an RV differs from insuring a vehicle?
Yeah, so and a lot of people are maybe a little confused about this, and I chalk it up to you don't know what you don't know, and we've all been there. Let's talk about you've heard full coverage before, you've heard liability. So liability is required by law to have on any vehicle that is self-propelled, car, truck, motorhome. And what makes that full coverage, in addition to the liability, is the physical damage coverage. So there's a couple of differences with the motorhome, say Class A, B, or C. You're going to have the full coverage option, the liability plus physical damage, which is your comprehensive and collision coverage. Now, with a non-self-propelled vehicle, such as your travel trailer, fifth wheel, toy hauler, you're only going to have the physical damage coverage. The reason why the non-self-propelled vehicle, which won't have an ID card, by the way, that's where I would give you a declarations page. The liability insurance would transfer from the towing vehicle to that particular RV, travel trailer, toy hauler, fifth wheel. So talking about the differences between RV insurance and auto insurance, if you get a policy like I won't use any names, but some carriers, it's going to be more geared towards auto. So basically, you're going to just have your physical damage coverage, just your comp and collision. And in some cases, that may be perfect for you. That's going to cover your comprehensive coverage, is going to cover your things like theft, wind, hail, lightning, flood, vandalism, etc. And then obviously your collision, you hit something or something hits you. So you'd be covered. Now, what I found that RVers, that are usually kind of serious about it, they're going to go out for, less than 30 days, more than 30 days. You might need a little more coverage. So who I use, that's been kind of my go-to, is Progressive and National General. And they're going to offer coverages. For example, in addition to your comp and collision, you're going to get things like emergency expense. which could be valuable in the event that you're traveling from point A to point B and there's an incident where, God forbid something happens to the RV, it needs to go into the shop. So you're kind of stuck. That emergency expense for a full timer is 2,000 with Progressive, 3,000 with National General for a part timer, and 7,500 for a full timer. That money could be used to offset the cost for a hotel room, maybe if you happen to need transportation or food, because in case you haven't noticed, I mean, things are taking a little bit longer to get fixed nowadays. So, you could catch yourself in a bind between point A and B where that coverage would be very important. And then there's one you might see on your policy, vacation liability for a part timer and full timers, or it'll say a full timers package, but essentially it's full timers liability for the full timer. That liability coverage is going to cover you in the event that someone gets hurt on, in, or around the RV. You're playing cards with someone you met in the RV park, they leave for the night, trip down the stairs, God forbid, get hurt, and just so happens they want to sue because they don't have medical coverage or whatever. But that's going to cover you in the case of an event like that. Now there's personal items. So basically, your personal items are going to be the things you bring into the RV: your clothes, your laptop, your phone, your cooking supplies, etc. Basically, the things like your TV, your couch, your microwave, your refrigerator are going to be covered with the RV. So the personal items, like I said, are going to be what you bring into the RV. And, with Progressive, I can go anywhere from zero to $1,000 as far as coverage for that. Another wonderful benefit that I have with Progressive, and by no means am I advertising or advocating for any certain insurance company. I'm just telling you what I deal with and who I deal with. Progressive offers scheduled personal effects. You've probably heard this before with a home policy where you have a really expensive item, say, for example, $1,000 wedding ring. If I have a bill of sale, receipt, or an appraisal, I can actually schedule that item. You have an old antique or expensive shotgun or rifle, or we can schedule those. And, in the event of an accident, theft, etc., you're going to get exactly what you paid for. For a full timer with Progressive, I can actually schedule items in storage. So some folks sell their house, basically put what they need in their RV, the additional items they're going to store. It is kind of a cumbersome process. You basically have to kind of list what you have in storage along with a price. And I would need that list to submit to the insurance company. Obviously, I would keep a copy for myself in the event that something happened with the storage area. Did
So
you have a question, Kathy? Yes, ma'am.
that's interesting on the claim thing because we did have a flood in our storage unit. And so I would say it's a good idea to proactively schedule things, especially if they're of significant value. Otherwise, there's caps to what they'll give you in the claim process if it's not as scheduled. So you may not get the full value. So it it sounds like a cumbersome process, but if you have a claim, you got to do go through that same process. So you might as well do it up front so that you get um, full coverage on those more expensive items.
Exactly. I agree. And yeah, and that, scheduled. And then, like I said, the storage items for full timers is only when that's authorized with Progressive. If you're a full timer, then we have the ability to um, offer you storage items. So 0 to 99,000. And like Miss Cathy said, I mean, it's going to be a process. You're going to have to kind of list what you have in that storage and kind of a value. And then she made a very interesting point. I always tell everybody, read the fine print of the policy. If I write your policy, you want that, let me know. If you're just having basic items, everything's going to be covered. But I'll go back to the ring I mentioned. I know with Progressive specifically, National General, I'm not quite as familiar. I need to dig into that just a little bit more. But sometimes Progressive will categorize things. For example, the classification of jewelry, they're going to give you $500 per item up to $1,500 in that category. So if God forbid you lost a $5,000 wedding ring, you're only going to get $500. So it behooves you to schedule that if at all possible, or any other expensive item you have. Now, having said that, the replacement cost for personal items is total replacement cost. Say you had a $500 computer. Of course, they're going to replace it. They're not going to devalue it. Oh, you've had it for 2 years. We'll give you 200. No, they're going to give you full replacement cost for that computer. It's just though some folks have, $2,500 bicycles, and I'm not talking e-bikes. I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of companies that are not, and I found this out the hard way. I've been doing this for 4 years, and it's been just question after question and learning. I learned right along with y'all. I won't consider myself an expert, but I have learned over these 4 years, and I've pretty much heard every question. But believe me, I still have to ask our underwriters questions. E-bikes are not covered. It came down to a liability issue because they can go up to 20 miles an hour. And if you hit someone, now we got a problem. We got a liability issue. And because of that, they won't even cover it if it's stolen off the back. So Progressive will actually write an e-bike policy. So let's put e-bikes aside real quick. I'm not trying to sell e-bike insurance or anything. I promise you. But some folks just have like a mountain bike, $2,500. So that will definitely be something. And I'm sure you're going to keep the receipt. You got it from Amazon or whatever. We can schedule that. So in the event that if it's stolen off the back, and believe me, people are doing it all over the country, stealing people's bikes right off the back of their RVs. If you had that scheduled for that 2,500, that's what you're going to get for that bicycle.
That's really interesting. So basically, an e-bike is insured like a motorcycle then.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And those are super popular with RVers. So
Yes.
really
Very.
information, really great information.
And we always assumed, okay, it's a bike, it's going to be covered. But then, like I said, because of that liability issue with, you hitting somebody with it or whatever, they were afraid to pull the trigger on, okay, it's going to be covered because of that. Yeah, you would need to get that insured elsewhere. Or like I said, I know Progressive can insure it like a motorcycle.
Yeah. That really does make sense because just like getting in an accident, on a motorcycle. Then you got medical stuff involved and all kinds of stuff. So,
Exactly.
what about roadside assistance?
So roadside, I'll tell you, with National General, roadside is very similar to your roadside for an auto. Now, I will tell you with National General, you're going to pay up front out of pocket, and they're going to reimburse you. And they'll cover the tire change, the everything that basically they would cover on an automobile. Now, Progressive's a little different. Progressive is 24/7 in the United States and Canada. They will tow you to the nearest qualified repair facility. They do offer a winching service. You have to pull off to the side of the road for whatever reason, and you're stuck. It happens, trust me.
Yeah.
And they could potentially winch you out if they couldn't get a truck in to actually pull you out. So they have that winching service. They'll do fuel delivery and battery jump start. And with that program, no money comes out of pocket. Like I said, with National General, you pay up front and then you're going to be reimbursed. I've heard a couple of bad stories over the years, maybe, golly, in my 4 years, maybe five. And, people don't call their insurance guy to tell them how great they are and how great the roadside is, etc. So I don't know how many success stories there are, but I haven't had a whole lot of horror stories.
That's good. 'Cause that's every RVer's worst nightmare is getting stuck on the side of the road.
I've heard a lot of RVers, and like I said, I don't advocate for anybody because I don't know enough about it. I've heard of FMCA, I've heard of CoachNet, I've heard of Good Sam. A lot of folks go with the different roadsides outside of what the actual RV policy covers. So, I mean, that might be an option to look into.
So then how would that work then? How do you, as far as the roadside assistance, if you have like in my progressive policy, I have roadside assistance, right?
Mhm.
I on top of that had a Good Sam roadside assistance. How does that work? As far as if if you need roadside assistance, you just pick one or the other?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could pick one or the other. And I always tell people sometimes redundancy will be good. It could be a super busy night for progressive, and it's like, man, I've been here 45 minutes. Let me try this one, kind of pick.
Yeah.
It will be a choice of either. It wouldn't be where, okay, so I use roadside, who's going to pay for it? The person that's going to pay for it, in my experience, is going to be the one you choose.
And I'm no insurance expert. So say you have a limit to where you can be towed under progressive. If your Good Sam tows a longer distance, can you pick up the balance with another roadside?
That is a wonderful question. And I'm going to be honest, I do not know the answer. Like I said, I know Progressive will tell you to the nearest qualified repair facility. I think National General is similar. If they look at a map, say you're broke down, they look at a map and there's three places they could take you that are 25 miles away, and you choose one that's 50 miles away, they're going to expect you to pay the difference between that 25 miles closest where there's three versus, somebody else that's 50 miles away. So be something like that. In my experience, that's what.
And so, Clark, you mentioned about Canada. Tell us about that.
I've run into an issue where a client with a motorhome, they say they're traveling to Alaska, so they're going to be going through Canada, or they're just going into Canada. I know with Progressive, if it's like, say, a motorhome, Canada may require that you have a Canadian ID card, and it's a pretty simple process. However, let your agent know at least, I would say, at least 30 days out, because with Progressive, they're going to mail you that ID card. It's possible, I have had it in the past where I can have them fax it to me, but they really want to mail it to you, that ID card. National General, same thing. So just, before you go into Canada, just kind of check with your insurance agent, which you probably do, but I didn't know. Just check with your agent, see if there's any special requirements if you have to go into Canada, whether you're going to Alaska or whether you're just going into Canada to visit. Just check with your agent and make sure you don't need anything special to go into Canada.
That's really a good idea. I wouldn't have thought of that. But yeah, you're going to a different country. So I guess that makes sense. So thank you so much for adding that in, Clark. I appreciate it. Insurance claims. Any stories do you have related to insurance claims?
I've had a lot of experience with claims, unfortunately, for those folks, but stuff happens. There's just so many things that can happen to your RV, to your auto, to anything. I mean, claims is, kind of expected, I guess, essentially. Now, with Progressive, I will tell you the best way to file a claim is via the app or online. Easiest and fastest way to file a claim. If you have an issue, some folks aren't tech savvy like myself. I'm not super tech savvy. You could call me, let me know, hey, I want to file a claim. I'll say, fine. We'll hang up. I'll get Progressive on the phone, their claim service. So you don't have to wait on hold. Let me do the dirty work. Once I get them claims folks on the phone, I will give you a call back. We'll do a three-way conference call and we can file the claim that way. With National General, it's super easy. So you give me a call and I can file it actually through the website myself on your policy. I'll just have to ask you, a few questions and we could submit the claim that way. And I've had a couple of horror stories, but maybe two or three where it's just taking a long time. And then, of course, on our end, and your end, it's like, come on, based on my own experience. I mean, there's so many different factors that go into claims and if anybody's involved. But for the most part, it's been pretty smooth as far as the claims process. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get a hold of your claims rep. They'll make that initial contact, and then you might not hear from them for a week. If that's the case, I mean, if I'm your agent or whoever your agent, call her
Mhm.
right away. I mean, you need to hear something.
Yeah.
That's my thing. everybody in this world is busy. Nobody is too busy. So my philosophy is they need to at least drop a line, answer the phone call, respond to an email, and just give you a heads up as to what's going on. That's just good common courtesy and good customer service. I mean, because you don't know what you don't know. Just like I said, I mean, I'm finding myself in the same boat. And it gets very, very frustrating. I get it. So
Well,
call your agent, and they might have other avenues. Maybe a supervisor. And I don't like to get supervisors involved, but sometimes you just have to. That claims agent could be super, super busy,
yeah,
especially during the hurricane, their catastrophe teams or whatever, or cat teams. I mean, you don't know, but
yeah,
but you deserve an answer.
yeah. Well, I have to say, we filed a claim with Progressive for the storage unit, and then we also have a State Farm inland marine policy because my husband's a contractor, right? So he has a lot of tools, and all those were on the floor. So that was the bulk of the damage, and then whatever furniture and mattress we had. But my experience with Progressive was really good. They were super responsive. Got assigned a claims adjuster right away. We just had to take pictures and there was a form to fill out. As far as dealing with Progressive, it was really good. They didn't hassle us about anything. They were very good to deal with. So, and my own personal testimony for Clark too is that, I've been working with him for several years now and he always gets back to me quickly, whether it's email or phone call. And I so appreciate that because a lot of times what you're dealing with, you're not happy about having to deal with it anyway. But when you have somebody that's so responsive, you're grateful for that. So
Thank you.
thanks for being a great
I,
agent.
I
Yeah.
try.
Oh, and then we've got, our travel trailer, my son's fifth wheel, and we have a cargo trailer. So we've got three trailers insured with Clark. So I've had a fair amount of experience with him and it's been fantastic. I appreciate you, Clark.
I try.
You do a great job. And I so appreciate you coming on the podcast because I think insurance for RVs is different enough that I think it's important to have to deal with a person and not just sign up online. I think when we first got our policy when we were just weekend campers, I signed up online, but when we were going to go full time, and I reached out to you guys at that point, which I'm really glad I did because it was much different, and I think I really needed your expertise to make sure because that's your home then, right? And
Exactly.
really important to if you switch from being just, a weekend camper to selling your house and living in your RV, it's super important to have the right insurance because, things happen. A flood. Our storage unit was in the foothills. We lived in the pocket area of Sacramento for 20 years, and there was several years where, the Sacramento River was so high that if a levee broke, we'd have been under 17 feet of water. I hauled photographs, tubs of photographs up to my friends in Granite Bay a couple times. And so it was a little ironic to have moved everything to the foothills, never had a flood down in the pocket area. But when we moved our stuff to the foothills, we did. So
Imagine that.
that was,
Anything can happen.
I know. And it's like, never would I have thought that our storage unit would flood up there. But there was just this big like a creek. It was all the water from the freeway drained off into that little canal and it just got overwhelmed. And
Tell you with RVs, it's like I said, you don't know what you don't know, and there's a lot of agents you're going to call, and they're not going to know. That could be a wonderful agent, but RVs is just a little different animal. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and my philosophy through my career in the Army is the only dumb question is the question you don't ask.
yeah,
So never be afraid to ask anything. Call your agent if you have questions about, anything you've heard today. If I'm wrong, I certainly hope I hadn't put out any bad information. I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, definitely ask questions.
yeah, awesome. Well, Clark, thank you so much. I really appreciate this is all really valuable information. And my niche and my clientele is new and aspiring RVers, and I think this is super important information to share with them. So thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you.
So Kathy, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And I hope, hope we touch somebody. And if you just have one, if we get 1 or 2 or 3 questions answered, and that would be great. So nobody suffers through something that they didn't need to. So thanks so much again, Cathy. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for me too. And I'm going to put all of Clark's contact information in the show notes. What is the best way? Tell us, and I'll still put it in the show notes. But what's the best way to reach you, Clark?
So my phone number, I actually, believe it or not, I live in Arizona. Long story, but my number is still a North Carolina number, 704-945-2308. That is my direct number. My email is Harrell, Harrell @hilbgroup.com. HILB group.com.
Thank you so much, Clark. So I'll make sure that that is also down in the show notes. If you want to reach out to Clark, if you have questions about RV insurance, I highly recommend him. I have years of personal experience with Clark. And he's always come through for me. So, all right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. And thanks, Clark.
You are very welcome. Take care.
You too. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in today to RV Advisors All Things RV Podcast. Please join us again next week for more RV education, resources, adventures, and interesting people. Until then, wishing you amazing adventures, safe travels, and I hope to see you on the road.